Hello, I'm Mike Collins, President and CEO of Colling Trucking, and this is a series of driver interviews that we're conducting. So today we want to welcome a trucking legend, John W. Gibson Sr. with us to talk a little bit about his truck driving experience. And John, I know that you're about less than 30 days shy of a 15-year anniversary here with Colling Trucking. Congratulations and thank you for your service with us. It's been a pleasure working with you for 15 years. We also know that in 2016, John accomplished 1 million miles accident-free. Congratulations on that. That's a milestone in the trucking industry. First of all, I know you're second generation in the trucking industry.
Absolutely.
So if you could just give us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and how you got involved with trucks.
Grew up on the south side of the Chesapeake Bay in southern Maryland, where my father started his trucking business in 1970. Wintertime, we would haul fuel, oil, and gasoline around the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. And in the spring and summer, we would start south of Lake Okeechobee and follow the melon season up there, right on up to southern Virginia, and pulling melons up into New York, Pennsylvania. And I was 12, 13 years old at that time, and my job in the summer when we got out of school was to ride with him and help unload the melons, which were loose loaded in an old van, 45-foot van, when we got up to the particular supermarkets that where we were unloading them. I'd have to unload them in these plastic bins, and I would get $25 per trailer load that we would take probably 4 or 5 hours to unload. But from there, I had to wait till I was pretty much 18 to get a driver's license in the state of Maryland. At that point in time, it was considered a chauffeur's license before I could drive for my father. And probably the toughest part of that whole deal was trying to complete high school, because I wanted to drive immediately. And my father told me that he doesn't hire anybody without a high school diploma. So I had to finish high school, and when I did, got my chauffeur's license and proceeded to go to work for him. And one of the first runs that I had were when we were hauling peanuts out of the northern part of North Carolina out to Los Angeles, California. And I was 18, 19 years old doing that. And in the wintertime, we'd pull everything back and haul that fuel, oil, and gasoline for that company up there in Bethesda, Maryland, is where it was, Metro Fuels. And that was his gravy, during the wintertime. And from there, we just expanded from 2 trucks to, I think at one time he was up to 9 trucks, and right on up to probably 1996 before he got ill, and pretty much had to start selling the trucks off. But the problem back then is probably as big a problem now. Is just finding drivers to put in those trucks that you could trust and drive and take care of the equipment. So I've been around it for pretty much my whole life as far as the trucking part of it goes. I probably spent about 15 years in an administrative type of job, but it was still dealing with the trucking industry before I moved to Georgia and was able to find you guys down here and start out the second or third part of my career in as far as the driving part with Colling Trucking. And been here and really have enjoyed this part of it, because you're not a number lost in some of those other larger companies out there, and I've really, had an experience that I've never had prior to coming here to Collins in Jackson, Georgia, because working with my father, I never realized just how tough that industry was until I got older, and I saw just how much it took him to keep those trucks on the road and keep drivers in the seats. And in this day and age, to me, seems to be 10 times as tough to maintain not only the equipment, but get good drivers in the seats of these trucks, and be able to keep that DOT rating that we have. You guys seem to be more more, I don't want to say technical about what you do as far as the way you put these trucks together and the way you just try to stay ahead of the technology part of it.
At 2006 is when you came on board and we started working together. So, what truck did you start at? What kind of truck did you start at?
I started out in one of the internationals with the small block cat motors.
Oh goodness. That was,
Yes, 107.
Yeah. And had you driven and pulled flatbeds before, prior to coming here?
I had worked across town for a company in Eatonton prior to finding you guys for about a year and a half. And before that, I had probably maybe about maybe a year experience pulling cinder block when I was still working for my father. We had a company that we would hook up to their trailers in the height of their season and just haul stock block around for those guys. So,
Did you find it was hard to pick up flatbed driving as opposed to what you used to pull?
yes, and the part that I was confused the most about was once a load was loaded on the trailer, just the proper way to tie it down, and then if you had to cover it with a tarp, that was the next big deal that I went through, was trying to make sure or figure out how to put that tarp on the correct way. And
Yeah. Well, and if we could show you a load that John has loaded in tarp, it would look like a Christmas package. So there's a lot of pride in what he takes in tarping the load and covering it. What about home time? Explain a little bit about how your home time is here. Is it every week or once every other week? Or
for the 14 plus years I've worked here, I've only been asked to stay out over the weekend twice, and when I was asked to do that, it had to do with the logistics of where I was and where they could get me to on and this was usually on a Thursday. Andy would call me and say, look, this is what we have. This is what we're going to ask you to do if you wouldn't mind staying out over the weekend. And the way he did it was he pretty much put me in a position to be somewhere close to where I had family, and that was back up there in Baltimore, Maryland. And so both times working with him, he got me to where I could, get somewhere for the weekend and actually spend time with my mom and with my brother who lived up there in Baltimore. And every week I'm home by Friday early afternoon, at the latest Saturday morning. And usually the Saturday morning deal has to do with these electronic logs that we're running now. That if you run out of time, you just lay out on Friday night and just come on in early Saturday morning. So I have to say, my home time is one of the bigger reasons why I'm here working for Collins.
what about the communications between you and the dispatch? Is it good or?
My dispatchers, Tony and Scott, they're good people. Now they know me well enough to know what to expect out of me, and the communication, as far as I'm concerned, is excellent. I mean,
Do you find more communication on the phone, or is the electronic communications
electronic. I stay off the phone. There's a reason for that. We have other ways to communicate, and that seems to work better for me.
Are they able to stay ahead of you on the loads?
Yes, we actually get a couple of days. They'll let us know. In the past, there's been about a half a dozen drivers that have kind of hounded them on, look, we need to make a plan, especially running these electronic logs, and if they have the information, they'll give it to us.
What's the craziest load you think you've ever hauled?
The shaker machine out of Central Ohio. It's a rather large piece of equipment that had to be brought out of Central Ohio down here overnight to these guys in order to meet a crane the next day in order to have it taken off the trailer. But that's probably been one of the crazier loads that I've had to deal with over the years.
What's one of the neatest places you ever unloaded at?
It was a house on the ocean, Gulf of Mexico, just to the east of Panama City Beach, Florida, and it was concrete out of core slab that was being unloaded by crane right on the beach to a house that was being built, and that the concrete was to hurricane proof the house right there on the beach. Yeah.
I think you called us.
Yeah, that was.
So you don't believe where we're sitting.
Well, I mean, it was a difficult place to get into because it was a neighborhood, and and they had to stop traffic. It was a lot of pedestrian traffic, and I think the best thing about that was when I pulled up and they told me where I had to back into a driveway. There was a crowd of people on bicycles, families, kids, and when I was able to get back into this driveway, get off the street, there was two families with small children and everything, with their bikes and everything, and after I backed in and pulled the brakes on, they were out there clapping, going, you know, yay, he did it, you know, look, Dad, he did it. No, I thought that was pretty cool that the kids, you know, were paying attention to what I was doing, so, you know.
I think that's one of the neatest things about being in the industry that we're in, is that the products that we deliver are things that people use.
Well, you know, there's galvanized metal on I-26, you know, where they built the walls to protect the homes from the interstate, and I think it had to do with the noise. But every time I go past there, I brought a load of that galvanized steel to that one particular exit where I unloaded, and that's where that particular stuff is. I mean, there's a cell tower over there in North Carolina that when I go over there to a place where we load, I go by there all the time, and that one piece of a three-piece cell tower is sitting there when I drive by it on that road. It's there. I know I had something to do with getting that there. And then there's quite a few other loads that I've hauled that, you know, things that I brought to certain places that, you know, Colling Trucking was, you know, part of getting that particular material to these people to get what they needed. So, you know, I find that to be just very satisfying, you know, when I can go by and see that, you know, hey, I was part of that, you know.
Right.
I enjoyed it.
If you had a young driver just getting started, got their license, and starting up with a company, what is the advice that you would give them so that they could be the success that John Gibson has been?
Patience. I mean, you come into this particular industry, and the way things are now, as busy as things are out there, there's so many things that you are responsible for when you're in the cab of that truck, and then you have the general public all around you. I mean, if you're young and coming in, I think you just have to really have patience in order to get that experience. And, you know, because nowadays it's it just doesn't take that much to put you in a bad situation out there. And I find it more now with myself. You know, I've got a granddaughter that just got her driver's license, and I have to tell myself, think about it. You know, before you get angry with what's going on around you, you know, you need to be patient and think that, you know, that might be my granddaughter there.
Well, John, I want to say it's an honor to work with you.
I've got to say that for the years that I've been here, I've enjoyed pretty much all of it. You guys allowed me to maintain my family and my household, and the environment here, as far as I'm concerned, is the best that I've ever seen or ever been around in you know, my 40+ years of being in the trucking industry. So I'm grateful to have this. I'm grateful that I drove down Alabama Boulevard one day and never realized you were here until I drove past here, and that's when I found you guys. So I'm grateful I did take that ride one day.
And we are too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.